And you have to think a little bit faster, you're like Josh. So you stop it, you know what I'm telling.
Undivided attention, please. Thank you. Good afternoon. Hi, good afternoon. Today's presentation will be based on feedback in communication. Stephanie and Alison will be doing the presentation. I'm Alison.
I'm Stephanie.
Hi.
Hi. Hi.
Hi.
Okay, so before we start with the main topic, which is feedback, we'll just touch on what is communication. Stephanie.
Communication is the transmission of information from a sender to a receiver through a medium which can either be oral, spoken, written letters, or non-verbal logo in nature. Through a channel, the channel is the means of getting the message to the receiver or target audience. Example, television, radio, emails, newspaper, etc.
Okay, so communication is the transmission of information from one sender, which is me, to the receiver, which is you. The communication process.
Communication is a two-way process that involves a sender and a receiver.
Me, Alison, you, the receiver, or the audience, as you all should put it. The importance of feedback.
With that being said, we all understand fully how the communication process works. In order for communication to continue, there must be an element present. This is known as a feedback, and it plays a pivotal role in communication.
Okay. Feedback.
Feedback in communication is important for various reasons.
1.
Communication flow is building a rapport with a new customer or making new friends.
2.
Obtain results like asking a question or demanding a task to be completed by a given time frame.
3.
Ascertaining information about a particular interest like Google.com.
Alright, so for the communication, the flow of communication flow is basically I ask a question and you all give me an answer. So the question would be like, what is your name? And the feedback would be, my name is so whatever is the case. So the communication flow in a two-way. Communication to obtain, to demand a task is meaning like your manager or supervisor asking one of you all to take the mails over to the head office or so. Ascertaining information, meaning finding information, like if you ask Google like how to make a bake, Google will say, so is the case, you need X and Y ingredients to make a bake. The main question today is, what is feedback? Definition of feedback.
Feedback. The observation of the receiver's response is called a feedback. In other words, the part of the receiver's response communicated back to the sender is called feedback. Or it can be the amount of response of the receiver that reaches to the sender, enabling the sender to evaluate the effectiveness of the message.
Right, so feedback is the observation of the receiver's response and the amount, meaning like if I text one of you all like 5 lines and you all just text back with a reply saying okay, like as much as some of us do. So when they said the amount of response, that is what they mean. According to Bartle and Martin, feedback is
feedback is the receiver's basic response to the interpreted message. And in the opinion of another Beauvais, I'm assuming that's how to pronounce it.
French, we just get
French,
okay.
Feedback is a response from the receiver that informs the sender how the communication is being received in general.
Right. These are reference. Martin and Bartle is reference. Theories that spoke about feedback in communication. So I will word them out. Types of feedback.
Feedback in communication can either take the form of oral, spoken, written letters, and or non-verbal body language, and can be transmitted through various channels in the communication process. For a sender to obtain quick response to his or her message, he or she would have to depend heavily on the availability and agility of the receiver. Example, requesting a task be done immediately by a specific individual, but he or she is on lunch.
Right, so feedback would have to depend on the availability of the person and also the time, the period in which the task was required or requested. So if your manager asks you to go over to head office to collect some files, but you know your lunchtime is at 12 o'clock, but he doesn't know that. So that's what I mean according to the availability of the person and the agility. So meaning like the agility is like how fast the person can move. Like if it's a new worker, and you tell them file 100, copy 1,000 of this letter and distribute it. But person is new, so obviously they won't be able to copy 1,000 files within half an hour. So that's what I mean by the availability and the agility of the receiver. Examples of feedback.
Oral or spoken. Unpleasant remarks made by the student after the boy was finished reading his story, or no sir, that is not my name.
So an example, written.
Written letter or email, an acceptance letter from a college.
It's a feedback. So the college wrote you back and letting you know that they have went over your college application and it is clear. Non-verbal.
Or body language. The girl rolled her eyes when the lady asked her a rhetorical question.
Like
Body language.
body language.
So non-verbal.
Non-verbal.
She would have rolled her eyes. Like you have a price on the item and she's still asking you how much is the price. You'll be like, oh, the norm.
The stalkers usually do it.
Why feedback is essential for effective communication?
Feedback is a response or reaction of the receiver after perceiving or understanding the message. It enables the sender to evaluate the effectiveness of the message. It is inevitably essential in case of two-way communication. Without feedback, two-way communication is either ineffective or incomplete. Feedback is the only way to gain receiver's response, and depending on the feedback, sender can track further steps. In organizational or business communication, feedback is extremely important.
Right. So, an example of feedback is 2 weeks ago, Ms. asked Stephanie and myself to do a presentation on feedback, and this is the response. Reasons why feedback is essential in communication.
Collection of information. Feedback is the only way to collect information from the receiver. If the receiver doesn't send a message of information or feedback to the sender, there is no way to collect